With his thoughts on Peter Sloly's testimony so far, we're now joined by Charles Bordeleau. He is the former chief of the Ottawa Police Service. Chief Bordeleau, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
So a lot to talk about here, but I do want to begin really with that moment that we just shared with our audience. Former Chief Sloly really having an emotional time as he was testifying, talking about the members of his force. But it was also interesting to hear his words. He said it was too much. They did their best. What do you make of that?
Well, I saw him testify during the parliamentary committee, and it's a point in time where he becomes emotional when he talks about its officers, and I get that because they went through hell. That those 3 weeks were very tough on them at a time when the public eye was on them, and lots of criticism geared towards the Ottawa Police Service. So he felt for them, whether it be the weather, the circumstances they're working on, and their inability to gain control of the situation. I think it was a moment of empathy towards what the officers were feeling.
Mm-hmm. And yet there are still these gaps, these questions that remain in people trying to understand. For example, the matter of intelligence. Chief Sloly, in one instance, talking about the details he was getting before the protests rolled into town, saying that nothing suggested that the protesters would actually be there for a long time. But again, the intelligence suggested otherwise. What does that tell you about the failure of that intelligence, or maybe the failure to interpret that intelligence?
I think it's a lot of the failure to interpret the intelligence. You've got the OPP on one hand, who is producing these products, who's telling them this is a longer, protracted event. Yet the Ottawa Police Service, including the chief, who admittedly skimmed some of the reports, not believing that this will be a long, protracted event, thinking this will be only a weekend. Interesting as well, he points to the national framework of intelligence failing him. Yet the Hendon reports talked about a national movement. So I'm not too sure what other elements RCMP or the Integrated Threat Assessment Center would have provided him that would have helped him understand better what was going on. Because the OPP reports were fairly clear. This is a national movement coming to Ottawa, and there was connection between the different points and elements in the convoy. And it was a longer duration point. They just chose to, for whatever reason, not take that into consideration from their planning perspective.
Mm-hmm. So again, to your point, a failure to interpret the intelligence. Let's also talk about communication, though, because even before Chief Sloly took to the stand this week, there was talk about the chaos even amongst the command structure with Ottawa Police. Based on what you heard from Sloly today, what stands out for you?
In a command and control scenario, you need clarity of communication. Your message and your mission and your words matter. And there seems to be a pattern here internally and externally that his words are being misinterpreted or not clearly understood. Whether it's the issue around this is not a policing solution, or when he's talking to his incident commanders around direction that he's providing in an operational environment where he should have been at the strategic level. And different interpretations as to what his deputies and his commanders thought he was saying. And you see the differences in notes that were being taken. So I found in my 10 years as chief that words matter, and you have to be very clear in your messaging, and so that there is no misunderstanding as to what you are saying and what your intent is.
Mm-hmm. And quickly here, because I'm losing time, Sloly's next appearance will be on Monday. Anything you're keeping a keen eye on?
Well, we saw that Chief Sloly has a tendency of showing a lot of emotion and also being defensive. So some anger issues are coming out a bit, I think, in some of his testimony, or defensiveness perhaps is the more proper word. So he's going to have to be careful around that, especially during cross. He needs to be straightforward and bring some answers that people are looking for, but his tone, he needs to be careful of the tone that he's using.
Charles Bordeleau, thank you very much for the time today.
You're quite welcome.